There is a moment in every person's life when they begin to notice something unsettling. Not every smile hides a kind heart, and not every friendly face carries good intentions. Some people appear honest, gentle, and trustworthy. Yet beneath that calm appearance lives a spirit filled with deception, jealousy, selfish ambition, and quiet destruction. That is why you cannot judge people only by what they show on the outside. Evil rarely announces itself with loud words or obvious actions. It often arrives dressed in kindness. It speaks with a gentle voice. It offers compliments, support, and friendship, while secretly waiting for the right opportunity to damage your peace. That is why you must learn to recognize the signs before someone with hidden motives interferes with the purpose God has placed over your life. There are individuals who slowly drain your strength, not because you have harmed them, but because they cannot tolerate the light that shines through you. They recognize your calling even when you do not fully understand it yourself. The presence of God's purpose in your life disturbs the darkness they carry inside. Remember this carefully. A person's appearance does not reveal the condition of their spirit. Only spiritual discernment can uncover what human eyes fail to notice. When you choose to walk closely with God, He begins opening your understanding beyond what is visible, allowing you to recognize hearts instead of merely faces. Never believe that everyone who enters your life has been sent to help you. Some people arrive with the assignment of slowing your progress, distracting your focus, or weakening your faith. The greatest dangers are often not found among obvious enemies, but among those who wear convincing masks. They promise loyalty, while secretly celebrating your failures. They speak as though they care, but their actions reveal something completely different. Such people become skilled performers, acting supportive while quietly hoping your dreams fall apart. If your spiritual eyes remain closed, you may continue welcoming them into your closest relationships, wondering why your joy disappears, your peace fades, and your strength slowly vanishes. Whenever God desires to bless His children, He often sends the right people into their lives. Yet the enemy also understands the power of relationships and sends people whose purpose is to discourage, divide, and destroy. This is why discernment is never optional. It is essential. Do not judge people only by beautiful words or polite behavior. Pay attention to the atmosphere they bring into your life. Someone with harmful intentions can imitate kindness. They can copy humility. They can even sound compassionate. But they cannot imitate the deep peace that comes from God's presence. Their spirit remains restless. Their conversations create uncertainty. Their influence leaves confusion instead of confidence and anxiety instead of calm. Understand that evil does not always appear through anger or violence. Sometimes it hides behind silence, polite conversation, flattering compliments, or false concern. Listen carefully when such people speak, because beneath their pleasant words often lies an invisible desire to see you fail. They may disguise envy as helpful advice, or present criticism as honesty. They often say, "I'm only telling you the truth," while quietly planting discouragement into your heart. Their honesty is mixed with poison. This is why you must remain spiritually alert. The enemy rarely approaches looking frightening. Instead, he appears comfortable, familiar, and trustworthy. He often works through the people you least expect. One clear sign of an unhealthy spirit is an inability to celebrate another person's blessings. The moment God begins lifting your life, their hidden emotions start becoming visible. Their excitement fades, their encouragement becomes weaker. They stop celebrating your victories and begin focusing on your mistakes. Rather than acknowledging your growth, they search for reasons to question it. This happens because darkness cannot peacefully exist beside genuine divine favor. The brighter your light becomes, the more uncomfortable hidden darkness feels. Sometimes God allows certain relationships to fall apart, not because He desires your pain, but because He wants to reveal what was previously hidden. Whenever someone repeatedly causes you to doubt your value, understand the difference between loving correction and destructive manipulation. Real correction builds you. Evil attempts to reduce you. Those with harmful intentions are experts at transforming confidence into guilt. They make you apologize for the very gifts God placed inside you. They convince you to question your worth, until you begin shrinking your personality simply to make them comfortable. But never forget this truth. God never created you to reduce your light, so others could remain comfortable in darkness. Anyone who constantly feels threatened by the gifts God has placed within you is revealing something deeper than simple insecurity. Evil works strategically. It studies your weaknesses while pretending to admire your strengths. It rarely attacks directly. Instead, it whispers doubts, manipulates emotions, and slowly damages trust over time. They may call you family, friend, or brother while quietly working against your peace. Yet God never leaves his children without warning. Long before the truth becomes visible, your spirit often senses discomfort. You begin feeling emotionally exhausted after spending time with certain people. Something inside tells you that something is wrong even when you cannot explain it logically. Never ignore that inner warning. Very often it is God gently protecting you before greater damage occurs. There is a spiritual heaviness that accompanies people who consistently carry evil intentions. Sometimes when they enter a room, the atmosphere changes without anyone speaking a word. You suddenly feel anxious, emotionally tired, irritated, or strangely uncomfortable. These moments should never be dismissed too quickly, because spiritual warfare often works through invisible influence rather than obvious actions. Not every human presence is spiritually harmless. Some individuals carry invisible burdens that contaminate the emotional atmosphere around them. After spending time with them, you may feel as though your joy has disappeared and your peace has been stolen. That is rarely an accident. Your spirit is responding to what your eyes cannot yet understand. Protect your peace through prayer, wisdom, and healthy distance. Evil grows stronger when constantly entertained, but it weakens when denied access to your life. Another powerful way to recognize a person's true heart is by observing what brings them happiness. When someone laughs at another person's failure, enjoys spreading gossip, or gains satisfaction from watching others suffer, they are revealing a dangerous condition within themselves. Godly hearts grieve over pain. Darkened hearts find entertainment in it. Pay close attention to what people celebrate because their greatest joy often reveals the true nature of their spirit. Darkness delights in destruction, but the light of God always rejoices in healing, restoration, and peace. Another clear mark of an unhealthy spirit is the constant use of guilt as a tool for control. People with evil intentions rarely ask with sincerity. Instead, they manipulate emotions by reminding you of everything they claim to have done for you. They say things like, "After all I've sacrificed for you," not because they genuinely care, but because they want to place invisible chains around your heart. They keep careful records of every favor, every gift, and every act of kindness, expecting repayment through obedience. Love never keeps score, but manipulation always does. It feeds on emotional debt and uses compassion as a weapon. God never blesses relationships built on control. He blesses those built on honesty, humility, and truth. People who walk in darkness also struggle to accept responsibility. When confronted with their actions, they avoid accountability by shifting blame onto someone else. They project their own faults onto innocent people and twist every situation until the victim appears guilty. Rather than admitting their mistakes, they hide behind pride because acknowledging the truth would require genuine repentance. Their pride becomes a wall separating them from change. Yet they often present themselves as deeply spiritual or morally superior. That is why you should never judge someone simply by how religious they sound or how humble they appear. Look instead at the fruit produced by their life. A tall tree may appear healthy from a distance, but if its roots are rotten, its collapse is only a matter of time. People who consistently carry evil within cannot maintain peace for very long. Their friendships repeatedly fall apart. Their family relationships become filled with tension. Wherever they go, confusion seems to follow. Their homes become places of constant arguments, and their relationships are marked by division instead of harmony. This is because a troubled spirit cannot produce lasting peace. Darkness survives by creating conflict, suspicion, and emotional instability. Watch carefully. If someone's presence repeatedly leaves broken relationships, confusion, and unnecessary pain behind, the issue reaches beyond personality differences. It points toward a deeper spiritual condition. Scripture reminds us that God is not the author of confusion. Therefore, a life that continually spreads disorder is moving further away from his light. Another truth you must understand is that evil often targets kind-hearted people. Compassionate individuals are seen as easy opportunities. Mercy is mistaken for weakness, and generosity becomes something to exploit. This explains why some of the gentlest people carry the deepest emotional wounds. You were not hurt because you lacked intelligence. You were hurt because your heart remained open. Yet even then, God never abandons those whose intentions are pure. Darkness cannot permanently survive where genuine love exists. It constantly attempts to corrupt love from within, but God always brings hidden motives into the light. Every secret agenda eventually reaches a season where it can no longer remain concealed. The ability to recognize evil does not come from suspicion. It comes through spiritual discernment. Suspicion grows out of fear and often judges without proof. Discernment, however, comes from walking closely with God. It allows your spirit to recognize what your eyes have not yet discovered. It is that quiet awareness inside your heart that gently whispers, "Something here is not right." Never silence that inner conviction. Never convince yourself to ignore it simply because you lack visible evidence. When God chooses to warn his children, he often begins within their spirit long before circumstances reveal the truth. Evil is patient. It waits for vulnerable moments, looking for opportunities when your strength is low and your guard has fallen. But those who remain close to God are never left without guidance. Evil often speaks constantly, while saying very little of lasting value. It flatters without encouraging growth. It makes promises without fulfilling them. Such people stay close, while you have something valuable to offer, but disappear when you are the one needing support. Their loyalty belongs to personal gain, not genuine relationship. They understand transactions, but know nothing of sacrifice. Yet even these painful encounters serve a purpose within God's plan. Every difficult relationship teaches wisdom. Every betrayal strengthens your boundaries. Every painful lesson sharpens your discernment and prepares you for healthier relationships in the future. Sometimes the most dangerous individuals are those who constantly portray themselves as victims. They always seem misunderstood. They always claim someone else treated them unfairly. They always appear innocent while everyone else seems guilty. Behind this endless self-pity often hides careful manipulation. Their goal is not healing but control. They want you to become their rescuer, believing only you can save them. Once you accept that role, they slowly drain your emotional strength, twist your words, and eventually leave you carrying guilt for simply trying to help. This is the trap of misplaced compassion. Never confuse sympathy with spiritual responsibility. Forgiveness does not require unlimited access. You can forgive someone completely while still choosing healthy distance. You can pray sincerely for their healing without reopening the same door that repeatedly brought pain into your life. God never commands his children to remain trapped inside destructive relationships. Sometimes love is expressed most wisely from a distance. Some relationships must be released so your own heart can fully recover. There are people you can continue loving through prayer, while recognizing they no longer belong within your closest circle. People who thrive on evil often depend heavily upon attention. The more emotional energy you continue giving them, the stronger their influence becomes. But the moment you stop feeding their need for constant reactions, they begin losing control. Silence becomes one of your greatest forms of protection. Healthy distance becomes a pathway toward freedom, because evil cannot survive where it is no longer entertained. Such people dislike boundaries because boundaries expose hidden motives. Once you begin saying no, refusing unnecessary explanations, and protecting your peace, their carefully constructed mask begins to crack. Suddenly they label you selfish, arrogant, cold, or ungrateful. These accusations are rarely based on truth. They simply reveal that you are no longer allowing yourself to be controlled. Never feel guilty for guarding your soul. God knows your heart completely, and protecting your peace is not selfishness. It is an act of faithful obedience. Darkness flourishes in secrecy and fears exposure. This is why God sometimes allows relationships to change unexpectedly. Friends become distant. Hidden truths begin surfacing. Long-standing situations suddenly collapse. Do not mistake these moments for chaos. Very often they are acts of cleansing. God removes certain people, not to punish you, but to clear the path ahead. And once he reveals someone's true character, do not return simply because you feel sorry for them. Believe what God has shown you. One of the clearest ways to recognize an unhealthy heart is through repeated behavior. Words may change, excuses may improve, but patterns remain remarkably consistent. Someone committed to deception continues repeating the same lies in different forms. The same unhealthy habits create the same painful outcomes because genuine transformation has never taken place. God offers every person opportunities to repent, yet a hardened heart refuses correction. Instead, it defends wrongdoing, misuses your forgiveness, and continues the same destructive behavior. Never allow compassion to blind your judgment. Mercy without wisdom eventually becomes another form of bondage. As God's presence grows stronger within you, your spiritual awareness becomes sharper. You begin noticing inconsistencies that once escaped your attention. Someone's voice may sound kind while their motives feel empty. Their compliments may seem forced. Their encouragement may lack sincerity. This is not paranoia. It is spiritual perception developing through God's guidance. He gives his people the ability to recognize what many others overlook. Trust the quiet warnings that arise within your spirit whenever something feels deeply out of place. They are often gifts of protection rather than products of fear. Another unmistakable sign of a heart influenced by darkness is its discomfort with truth. People who carry hidden evil rarely celebrate integrity because genuine righteousness exposes what they are trying to hide. Conversations about honesty make them uneasy. Accountability feels like an attack to them. Instead of expressing gratitude, they prefer gossip. Instead of admitting mistakes, they criticize others. Their pride becomes the center of their identity, and they pursue influence rather than peace. Yet pride always carries the seed of its own downfall. God's justice may not arrive with loud announcements, but it never fails to arrive. Every act of deception eventually produces consequences. Every hidden motive eventually becomes visible. You do not need to spend your life trying to expose people who choose darkness. Time and truth will accomplish what anger never can. The greatest victory over evil is not revenge. It is release. You overcome darkness not by becoming like it, but by refusing to give it a permanent place within your heart. When you stop reacting emotionally, when you quietly walk away without hatred, when you bless others and continue moving forward, evil loses much of its influence because its strength often depends upon your response. Stop wasting valuable energy fighting shadows. Keep your attention fixed on the light God has placed before you. Your responsibility is to remain faithful, spiritually alert, and deeply rooted in peace, while trusting God to handle everything beyond your control. There may be people who betrayed your trust and believe they escaped every consequence. They may think deception brought them victory, but no one escapes the justice of God. Whatever is planted through dishonesty will eventually produce painful results. Whatever was stolen through manipulation will one day be restored according to God's perfect timing. Even the attacks designed to destroy you can become part of your promotion, because while evil creates plans rooted in selfishness, God is always working through a greater purpose. His plan always rises above every scheme formed against his children. If you truly want to recognize someone with harmful intentions, listen carefully to the way they speak about people who are not present. A person who freely spreads gossip to you will almost certainly speak the same way about you when you are absent. Someone who finds satisfaction in another person's suffering will not hesitate to celebrate your pain when the opportunity comes. Their loyalty exists only as long as personal benefit continues. A godly person protects another person's reputation even when they are not around to defend themselves. Someone walking in darkness enjoys destroying reputations simply for entertainment or influence. Pay close attention to the tongue, because it reveals what the heart has been storing. Evil may hide itself for a season, but it can never remain hidden forever. Sooner or later, every mask slips. Every false story eventually contradicts itself. God has a remarkable way of bringing hidden things into the open. Therefore, do not rush to seek personal justice. Allow time to accomplish what frustration never could. God's timing uncovers truth with perfect precision. Your greatest defense against evil is not intelligence, popularity, or influence. It is remaining spiritually aligned with God. When your heart stays clean before Him, He Himself becomes your shield and protector. A life anchored in divine wisdom cannot easily be manipulated by deception. That is why you should pray regularly for discernment. Ask God each day to guide your relationships. Not every person who enters your life has permission to remain there forever. Some people arrive carrying assignments that distract you from your calling. Ask God to filter your circle. Ask Him to remove anyone who cannot walk faithfully into the next season He has prepared for you. Always remember this important truth. Evil rarely enters dramatically. It arrives quietly. It begins through flattering words, apparent kindness, comforting conversations, and what appears to be genuine concern. But little by little it demands more, controls more, and slowly destroys peace from within. Guard the entrances to your life carefully. Protect your eyes, your ears, your thoughts, and your heart. Whatever you repeatedly entertain eventually gains influence over you. What you continually tolerate eventually begins controlling you. What you repeatedly ignore eventually spreads corruption into areas you never expected. Be watchful, because evil is patient, subtle, and persistent. At the same time, remember that darkness is not found only in other people. Sometimes it hides quietly within ourselves. Pride, jealousy, bitterness, hatred, and selfish ambition are all seeds capable of growing into the very darkness we condemn in others. If you truly desire to recognize evil, begin by asking God to remove every trace of it from your own heart. As your spirit becomes cleaner, Your ability to recognize unhealthy motives in others becomes much clearer. God often reveals external dangers after he has first completed an internal work within us. A heart refined by truth cannot easily be deceived. Those who choose evil may appear successful for a season, but inwardly they remain trapped. Their minds rarely experience lasting rest. Their consciences remain burdened. Peace continues to escape them. Do not envy such lives, and do not waste energy wishing harm upon them. Simply release them into God's hands, because his justice reaches every deceitful soul at exactly the right moment. Your assignment is never to fight darkness with more darkness. Instead, rise above it through wisdom, quiet confidence, and lasting peace. True victory comes through revelation, recognizing unhealthy people for who they really are, and choosing to walk away with dignity instead of resentment. Not every harmful person reveals themselves through open hostility. Sometimes they hide behind carefully performed kindness. There is kindness that flows naturally from a heart transformed by God, and there is kindness used as a calculated strategy. When love comes from a pure heart, it expects nothing in return. But when kindness is driven by selfish motives, it becomes another method of gaining trust before eventually controlling the relationship. Learn to observe not only what people do for you, but also why they do it. The motive behind an action often reveals far more than the action itself. Even people with harmful intentions can give generous gifts, yet those gifts frequently carry invisible expectations attached to them. What first appears generous slowly becomes controlling. That is why you must ask God to sharpen your discernment so you never mistake bait for blessing. The most dangerous individuals are often not those who openly oppose you, but those who secretly envy everything God is doing in your life while pretending to stand beside you. Jealousy grows quietly beneath the surface before producing betrayal, dishonesty, and sabotage. Never underestimate the destructive power of envy. It has the ability to transform trusted friends into enemies, faithful companions into competitors, and supporters into obstacles. Whenever God's favor begins lifting your life, hidden jealousy often rises to the surface. Those who once applauded your progress may suddenly become uncomfortable with your success. Do not fear these moments, because every revelation is also a form of divine protection. God is simply showing you hearts that could no longer remain hidden. When people driven by unhealthy motives realize they cannot damage your reputation, they often change their strategy and begin targeting your peace instead. They whisper behind your back, provoke unnecessary conflict, criticize your decisions, and look for ways to keep you emotionally unsettled. If you speak with confidence, they accuse you of arrogance. If you respond with humility, they call you weak. Their goal is never to understand you. Their goal is to disturb your stability. They thrive in confusion because their own spirit cannot survive in an atmosphere of peace. But you must remain steady. Refuse to be drawn into endless arguments with people who feed on negativity. Every reaction gives them more influence. Every moment of silence weakens their control. Allow your peace to become your strongest response. Let your calm spirit speak louder than endless explanations. Silence before evil is not weakness. It is wisdom guided by God. People who manipulate others often become highly skilled with words. They know how to twist truth until confusion replaces clarity. They make lies sound convincing and distort reality until innocent people begin questioning themselves. They carefully study your emotions, learning exactly which buttons to press so they can control your reactions. This is why your mind must remain anchored in God's truth. A heart grounded in His presence becomes far more difficult to deceive. When your faith is firmly rooted in divine wisdom, you often recognize deception before it fully reveals itself. Those who operate through manipulation frequently test your boundaries. They continue pushing until they discover how much they can take from you before you finally resist. God teaches His children to stand firm. Every attempt to pressure you becomes an opportunity to strengthen your character. Another reliable mark of an unhealthy heart is the inability to sincerely celebrate another person's success. Such people criticize quickly but praise reluctantly. Genuine happiness for someone else's blessing feels impossible, because comparison has poisoned their heart. Gratitude cannot survive where jealousy rules. They measure their own value against your progress, and every step forward you take makes them feel as though they are falling behind. Because of this, never build your confidence upon the approval of people who secretly compete with you instead of supporting you. The light God has placed inside your life will naturally expose darkness hidden within others. Stop trying to make everyone comfortable with the calling God has given you. Some individuals were never meant to understand your purpose. Their response to your growth simply reveals the condition of their own heart. People influenced by pride often crave constant attention because attention feeds their sense of importance. They play the hero whenever others are watching, yet behave completely differently when no audience is present. Their motivation is rarely truth. It is recognition. Even their good deeds are often performed to receive applause instead of honoring God. But remember this: God sees every action performed in secret, and He also exposes every act motivated by pride. No disguise lasts forever. Eventually, every mask begins to crack, revealing the true character beneath it. God's light never rushes, but it never fails either. Every hidden secret eventually finds a voice. Every lie eventually begins falling apart under the weight of truth. You do not need to expose darkness yourself, because truth has a way of revealing everything in its proper season. Another habit of people who carry evil intentions is creating division. They quietly plant suspicion among families, friendships, workplaces, and communities. They exaggerate situations, twist conversations, and distort motives until trust begins to disappear. Division has always been one of darkness's favorite tools, while unity reflects God's presence. Wherever gossip spreads without restraint, spiritual damage follows. Listen carefully to private conversations. If someone's words constantly destroy peace, create distrust, or damage another person's reputation, you are witnessing darkness hiding behind the appearance of friendship. Walk away from such influences. Peace reflects God's presence, while confusion often reveals something entirely different. Not every dangerous person is loud or obvious. Some are quiet, patient, observant, and highly strategic. They study your habits, your weaknesses, your emotions, and your routines. They gather information not because they care, but because they hope to use it against you at the perfect moment. They resemble serpents waiting silently before striking. Yet none of their plans remain hidden from God. He sees every secret intention long before it unfolds. Evil may believe it is clever, but compared to God's wisdom, it is powerless. Every scheme built upon deception eventually collapses when confronted by divine truth. Many people with hidden darkness also present themselves as morally superior. They constantly point out the failures of others to distract attention from their own corruption. They speak loudly about justice while secretly practicing dishonesty. Their righteousness becomes a performance rather than a genuine way of living. But God examines hearts rather than appearances. When He reveals what is hidden inside, false virtue loses all of its power. This is why you must never be deceived by appearances alone. Sometimes the loudest preacher of morality carries the darkest heart, while the quietest soul reflects the brightest light. Never judge only by words. Discern the spirit behind them. A person consumed by darkness also struggles to forgive. They hold on to old offenses as though those wounds were valuable possessions. They repeatedly revisit past hurts to justify ongoing bitterness. They may claim they have moved on, yet their actions reveal resentment still controlling their heart. True forgiveness requires humility, and pride refuses to release old pain. Remember this whenever you meet such people. Unforgiveness poisons the one carrying it far more than the one it targets. Darkness feeds upon old wounds, but you do not have to allow those wounds to shape your future. By forgiving, you break the chain connecting your heart to their influence. Sometimes evil hides beneath charm. It flatters people to gain access, then slowly replaces affection with control. Charm is not the same as genuine love. Authentic love builds healthy connection, while manipulation seeks power. Harmful people may imitate affection for a while, but they cannot maintain it because true love requires purity of heart. They speak sweet words while acting with hidden selfishness. They shower you with attention, then suddenly withdraw it to make you chase their approval. That is not love. It is emotional control. Never mistake inconsistency for mystery. Where genuine love exists, peace grows naturally. Where manipulation dominates, darkness is quietly at work. Perhaps the deepest wound caused by evil is betrayal. Rarely does betrayal come from strangers. It usually comes from people who once claimed to love you. Yet even betrayal is not the end of your story. Often it becomes God's way of opening your eyes. He sometimes allows painful separation to protect your future. The same hands that once appeared to support you may have been silently holding you back all along. When betrayal arrives, refuse to let bitterness settle into your heart. Instead, allow it to increase your wisdom. Those who betrayed you may have actually freed you from even greater pain waiting ahead. What looked like a devastating loss was often hidden protection. God removes the wrong people through painful exits so the right people can enter according to His perfect timing. Darkness frequently depends upon lies. Lies travel quickly, but truth always lasts longer. Falsehood constantly changes shape because it must